all go through difficult times in our lives that can make us question our existence itself. And that can sometimes break us or shape us, but always leaving behind a desperation to find answers. It's in these moments of agony a breakthrough happens, a shift in our understanding of the universe, or maybe an experience of miracles. And it's happened with all of us at least once in our life, but we'd still like to question if miracles could really happen. If there's a God out there who listens to us each time we pray, and if the universe really communicates with us all the time. Such is our understanding of things far beyond the intelligence of our conscious mind. Hi, I'm Saudamini Mishra, an artist from India, and this is my story of real-life miracles.
I've always been a very cerebral person. I believe in things that can be proven because since I was a child, I think, I can't say since I was a toddler, but since I think I was an adolescent, I've always had this thing, this obsession with laws and definitions that can be proven, and the inference sort of an ideology. And when I was in 11th, I took up science. So that further just fortified my idea and belief in logic and rationality. But then, I think the first incident that really triggered this idea in my head, there's something known as instinct or the irrational world, is when on a whim I just dumped my studies all of a sudden. Everyone was telling me as to how it was going to be disastrous in my future. And I knew it somewhere down the line. My rational mind knew that what I was doing was wrong. And yet I was doing it. Because I was like, it feels right, but I know it's wrong. It's a dichotomy. And that's when I realized that, I think there's something here at play which is bigger than me. Even I'm not aware of it.
Okay, so Damini and Rashmi, welcome to the show. Let's start with you. You told us in the beginning of the show that there was this one advice your mom gave to you which actually changed your life over the night. What was it all about?
Well, so I think to tell you that I'll have to go back about 10 years. So from being a science student, I went and chose history honors and this was actually at a university because I didn't like the college I'd gotten into. I didn't like the people there. That's how superficial I was. In the middle of the term, there was no other course available, so I chose history honors. But then again, since I was a good student, I was a topper throughout, topped my South Campus Indian University in the second year.
Right.
And was on my way to being a lecturer because I was always very academic, especially in college. And I've always been a thorough rationalist that way. So art and things like spirituality, instinct, all of them are pretty alien to me. I was really into my books and just being ahead in life. In whatever you do, you have to excel. That was like my main mantra. So I think I was really into my studies and writing because I ultimately wanted to be an author. So I was trying to be a lecturer to get there. But then after completing my course, I think almost in a whim, I just gave it up. I still don't know why. I felt something from within. There was a pull and I just decided to give it up because I knew, my rational mind knew what I was doing was wrong.
Right.
But there was something within me. I still don't have a name for it. I was like, no, you're not supposed to do this. And everyone around me, I went to this for 2 years. Everyone around me was really, pushing me, what do you think you're doing? You're ruining your life. It's been 2 years. You still don't know what you want to do. You've left a good career because I was also getting job offers.
All right.
Right after my graduation to assist researchers and people like that in history. And I didn't want to do that. And suddenly, just one fine day, I think I realized what I really enjoy doing is applying paint to the canvas. That's really how abstract it was.
I actually like how you put it, applying paint to the canvas, just that simple.
Not even drawing or sketching or depicting something. I just enjoy the process, the sound of the brush against the canvas, and just applying paint and coloring it, and that's it. I was like, you know what? I just one day told my mom, you know, I like painting, but I don't have the talent for it. For about 2 years, I was just slapping paint on the canvas. I wasn't doing anything.
Wow.
And that really took a lot of courage.
And patience, of course.
And patience, and like my own nagging voice from within telling me stuff and just pushing it aside and saying, no, I'm enjoying this. This is like meditation. I want to do this. Finally, I reached a melting point because I realized that I've been 2.5 years then. And I was like, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting ahead. And that's when I reached my breaking point. I was like, I have to do something with my hands which is more constructive than just this. And I went up to my mom. She was sitting in her room and she was, as usual, very calm self, and she was watching, I think, a show on television. And it was winter, so wearing boots. And I was like, you know what? I don't know what to do with my life. I'm going mad. I want to come out of my own body, my own skin, because I'm feeling so restless and I have no direction. So she's like, she didn't say anything. She just kept watching her television show. And I got so mad at that point because when I'm talking, you listen to me, and she didn't. So I took off my boot, I flung it across the room. And that's when she woke up that my daughter's really lost it now.
Yeah.
And I was like, tell me what to do. I just screamed. And she was like, go and pray. You know?
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, and that really angered me more. I was like, that's what you've got
I mean,
for
that
me.
wasn't what you were expecting.
No,
at
I was like,
all.
that's what you got for me. And she was like, I'm your parent. I can't do more than this. I'm not God. I'm just a human being, just like you are.
That's actually so interesting, Rashmi, and also so uncanny. I mean, you know, no parent would go and say, just go and pray. Why would you give that advice? I mean, what urged you to just tell her to go and pray?
I was brought up in a culture where people start praying from the very beginning of their lives, because you watch other people in your house. We always have a little shrine. Most Indians do have a shrine. And I developed a special relationship with my form of divinity. Reason being, I was the only child of my parents. So my parents were both careerists. So I used to be at home alone with just servants. And through thick and thin, that is school, which I hated. I was a horrible student. Horrible is the word. Or getting bullied, being the only child, being an extremely a kid with no confidence. I decided I'm going to take one of the deities displayed on our shrine as my own mother. And actually, this is where an aunt of mine came in. She was quite a philosophical guide that I had in my life. And I asked her, I said, I was obviously very childlike. I said, which deity should I pray to for fastest results? And she says, look, you have to choose either a mother figure or a father figure or simply a friend. It's up to you. So I chose Durga, okay? And I started praying to her. And what were my prayers all about? They were not the regular prayers. I would just sit in front of her. And this is something which started when I was very young, because I had all the time in the world. And I started discussing every emotion that I felt within me with her. Negative, positive. It's something like the confession box the Christians have, right? In this case, instead of a priest, you have your god or goddess listening to you. And because it's not a human being, you can go to any level. I remember asking my mother for a pair of red shoes, and she'd already bought me enough. Whenever I used to go out with her shopping, I used to always come back with something. And she said, no, you have enough. Sorry, we can't afford another pair of red shoes for you. And I don't know if it was stupid or it was just me being me. I went and asked my Durga, I said, I really want those red pair of shoes. And lo and behold, in the next 5-6 days, I got them.
It was there.
Well, this is not really a miracle, but it's a beginning of a process that started in my life.
But then all of us pray in one form or the other. You know, we go to churches, temples, whatever. But still, I find that a lot of people find it difficult to sort of relate to it. Why do you think so?
You know, the thing is, again, these are some preconceived notions that the parents actually put in their kids. Children grow up to do what they watch is being done in the name of rituals. And those rituals remain rituals. We are never told to go and speak to him. We are told to go and thank him. Go, thank him, and be humble, and your job is done. But that's a cliched line, you know. It is a cliche. You just don't go up to your deity and pray and thank him and walk away when you are burning with anger, or you are inferiority complex ridden, or you are in such a bad shape that you want to die. These things don't work then.
But then what do you do? I mean, once you go and you've prayed and you've let your heart out, then what?
Well, we all have a soul. That is something which nobody would deny. There is a power inside us. There is an energy inside us, right? Which is what we carry around us. When you, as an energy form, when you ask the divine for something and you pray with all your passion, you develop some kind of an extra sensory powers. In my case, I've led my life on my dreams. I developed a dream world when I was in my, maybe when I was 11ish, 12ish, teenage years, because I was always an avid prayer as such. And I've seen it develop in my kids. I've put both my kids on the same path.
But then what do you mean when you say dream world? You know, because a lot of people might not even understand.
Now, this is where I want, so Damini, you have to tell about your dream that you got, which actually made you paint.
Okay,
That's how we should
Actually,
start.
I mean, what happened right after, you know, when you prayed, and then what was it like?
I remember the emotion that I felt. It was a helplessness, right? Because she said, go and pray. Now, in a layman's world, what that means is no one can help you. You're hopeless, right? So I was like, okay, so that's like I've hit rock bottom, right? And so I had no choice but to, like, you know, cover those steps from the room to the shrine in our house in abject frustration and helplessness. I just went with tears smarting under my eyes, and I just looked into the goddess's eyes, the, you know, like the idol's eyes. And I was like, now you tell me, what am I born to do? I wasn't praying. I didn't even fold my hands.
But did you actually believe that there was something or someone listening to you, you know, when you were letting out?
Maybe in that moment I did, because I had no choice. It was really desperation. You want to believe that maybe there is someone up there listening to me, because my own mom can't help me, my father can't help me, my friends can't help me, I'm on my own. All I know is I felt intensity in my heart, in my body, in my flesh, in my skin, and I felt a complete honesty, because I knew there is nothing else I can ask for. And I don't want to ask for anything else. I just want to know what am I born to do. That's it, period. And complete surrender. Is there a God? I don't know. If there is one, maybe he's going to help me out. And so I just gave up I didn't even have a hope. I didn't even expect something to happen. I just given up. I didn't know what I'm going to do the next morning. And I went and slept in my room as usual and crying myself to sleep. I still remember. And at some point, I think I fell asleep and I saw a dream in which it really seemed surrealistic at the point, because I was in the dream, the room was exactly the same. I was lying down, like it's almost as if, you know, the reality is playing out but as a dream. So I was lying down my bed, I was trying to sleep, and suddenly I see this woman walking into the room. And the woman apparently was a teacher of mine from the past. And she came up into the dark room and stood right next to my bed. And she said, get up, you know, and she was urging me to get up, and I was lying helpless. I was like, I can't get up, you know, and I have nothing to do. And she was like, no, get up, I've called the laborer. And I was like, I don't have money to pay him. And she was like, and then she retraced her steps, and while walking back, she said, get up, you're born to be an artist.
Wow.
And then I woke up and I realized, oh shit, that was a dream. It's the same scenario, the same setting, the same side of the bed, the same room, the same darkness, but that was a dream because I woke up, right? And it was an existential experience for me, what just happened.
Anyway, the next morning I woke up, I was like, yeah, right. Like wishful thinking, when your subconscious has something, your dream starts speaking that, and how, because you were thinking of that last night, that was playing out in your reality. So I ignored it. And I still remember, I think that was the same day my mom saw a painting made by me, and she was like, Sudhamini, never take up painting as a career, because what you have made is a poster.
She gave up his life.
Yeah, she's like, this is a 12-year-old painting a poster for her room. Please get real, start doing something else with your life. I remember I sat down, that one canvas I had. I was like, let me just try this one final time, just to be calm and just do my thing and finish it off. And this is, I think, about 5 days from the dream. And I took the finest paintbrush I still remember, which was I think about 000 or 0. And I started painting a clock in my mom's room. I was in my studio, a so-called studio back then, and I was just painting a clock. And I just saw something unreal happen. I was like, wait a minute, I'm painting the metal and the reflection as they are. The light falling on that metal watch, or clock rather.
And that just happened.
I was like, I couldn't believe my hand was moving that way. I couldn't believe, how did I know what colors to use? How did I know gray and orange would create that reflection? I was just doing it and I didn't know how it was happening. And I painted one portion of the clock. And then I looked at the clock and I looked at the canvas and I was like, wait a minute.
This is real.
This is what is happening. I mean, have I lost it completely now? Have I become like, really a schizophrenic of some sort, imagining things? This can't be happening. I felt something, but I ignored it. I was like, no, wait a minute. Let me finish the entire thing before I decide what's happening. I finished the painting and I still remember I got it down to my mom, feeling something unreal inside my body, because I knew what I'd created on that canvas was something which was a miracle. I had captured each and every reflection, shadow, color of that still life on my canvas without any training, without knowing what color palette was, hot colors, cold colors. I got to know much later in life what paint brushes to use, what technique and method to use. I didn't know anything and I just did it. And I still remember I came running down with the canvas in my hand to my mom's room and I just showed it to her. She was speaking over the phone and suddenly she just hangs up and she's like, oh my God, that's a miracle. She was like, that's a miracle. And I was like,
My breath stopped.
and I was like, I've done this.
But did you expect that?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
So Rashmi, how do you explain these? I mean, it's just not normal, she unlocking real superpowers overnight. I mean, is there a logical explanation to these things?
This is absolutely not logical. Believe me, we were visiting somebody in their house and we were discussing this side of life. And those people got so angry. I could really see that they wanted us to leave, because this was an area which made them feel
Uncomfortable.
not just uncomfortable, they thought we are insane. People who are logical, they believe you have to be a whack job if you speak this language. Even as a child, I used to be pulled up in school because before every exam or anything, I used to pray and the kids used to laugh at me. But you develop a thick skin, specifically if things are working for you. But that's when I realized, I said, oh my God, this should go out into the world. There are people who need to change their point of view. Maybe not that particular family, but there are so many others who are probably looking out for something and can't find it. Because people don't talk about this.
Yeah.
People don't talk about this subject anymore. It's become an extremely touchy, an extremely private subject.
Also, I think as an objective person, I would like to say this, that the miracle was that I wasn't just painting realistically. It was supposed to be a genre of painting called photorealism/hyperrealism. The genre of art I was engaging in was actually supposed to be the most tedious. It requires, if you go and read up on it, it requires a certain level of technical virtuosity, which is what was inexplicable to me. And that's when I
And
realized.
back then you didn't even have an idea that you were actually doing hyperrealism.
I did. I'll tell you why. I did. That's why I was so surprised, because I knew that I used to look at those paintings as a child or as a teenager and I'd be like, oh my God, how does anyone do this? I was awestruck. So I did know about that. But that was something I couldn't even fathom, that for even a 1 centimeter would be covered by paint in that way by me.
I had to add something here. So Damini has been a purely a logical person all her life.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that she was brought up in my family, where everything is irrational, we really don't follow the rational. But this one experience, it came as a miracle to her.
Yeah, it changed my perspective completely.
It changed her perspective, it changed her existence. She never looked back and look.
As a matter of fact, even if there's a change and shift in perspective, she still remains the logical person she was.
She has
and
that
then the
side.
spiritual
She
side
has that
too.
side.
No, I'm still
This is a cliche that people need to break, that you don't have to become a sannyasi or a
No,
monk
not
to
at
sort
all,
of
no.
have
You are
these experiences.
extremely-
I'm extremely different from my mom and my brother, and for most people who are like really like spiritually inclined or anything, I'm like I have no shame in saying this, that I am primarily intellectual by nature, more than spiritual. I'm more cerebral, but that does not mean that you don't have a link with the spiritual or the irrational, because that has guided me through the intellectual plane.
And one thing which is very important, Richa, which is very, very, and I really want to speak about that. Whenever you go onto this path, the first thing that you have to leave is anger. Anger is that destroys our karmas. It could be anger towards people, or anger towards your government, or anger towards the divine, or the anger towards your own self.
And that's
or
actually
your own...
your ego mind
It's your
directing
ego.
it.
So-
But now that you've mentioned anger and that we're talking about ego, before we move further into discussion, why don't you explain a bit about what's ego mind? Because a lot of people out there would confuse it with something as, general ego, the perception around ego.
Not
what
being the
ego
first
is.
one to call.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't believe in that at all. Why? Because A, be a confident human being. Confidence can come only when you have a connection with something. It could even be a tree, for God's sake, anything. But conviction and confidence actually come when you have faith.
What concerns me more is that a lot of people, like I have myself had spiritual experiences, profound experiences that were nothing less than miracles. And we did discuss those before. But it took me some time to get comfortable with, talking about those things either to my parents or to my family or to anyone else. Like you said, it's just not normal for people to sort of open up.
Nope.
How do you come to that ease? Because with me, I sort of made myself okay with whatever I was going through. I did keep a lot of information to myself, but then I opened up slowly. But for people in general, how do you comfort yourself, when you go through these experiences?
It's the power of conviction. You have to have the power of conviction. If somebody thinks you're nuts, let him think so. Who cares? As long as your life is sorted. I think when you come with a destiny. Remember this. And this goes for everybody who's watching it. My age, your age, younger, even older. Never leave everything on your destiny.
Correct. Because you're always changing it
Because
also
no,
with
the
your
fact
actions.
is, believe me, prayers have the power to change it. And I'm not saying that your destiny, the way it had been planned, is going to be wiped out clean, and you'll have instead of gray areas, it's going to be a spick and span white chart or destiny. No, believe me, things happen.
But maybe destiny changing is part of destiny.
Actually,
Maybe,
I mean,
I've
always
because that
believe in-
change is supposed to happen, that is your destiny.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to experience.
Yeah.
And actually, sometimes you have to be just okay with the fact that you don't know an answer to the question.
Yeah.
You just have to believe that it's gonna happen when it's
One
gonna
thing
happen.
is there, you should speak to a form. Whatever you think is your destiny, speak to him. Either he changes it for you, he, she, again, any form you find is sacred for you. Either it changes your destiny, or it gives you the strength and the intelligence
Changes the perception.
to cope. Change your perception,
Yeah.
or it's a bit of both.
But I think the message is loud and clear that these, miracles and sort of spiritual experiences are very much real. It's like being born with normal five senses. Yes, the sixth sense is another normal thing. But at the, as we wrap up the chat, is there a message that you want to give out to your viewers? You've shared your story with us, but what is it, that one thing that you want to share with people?
Thanks to Sadamini actually making it in the world of art, I get a chance to say this to the world, that whenever I open the newspaper today, I shudder. Think the bad things that are happening, which I don't even want to speak about, leave alone imagine. Anything you can think of is happening there, under the sun. It's frustration, it's drug abuse, it's greed. it's people are suicidal, and before they kill themselves, they kill others. If somebody could guide these people, somebody who's of importance to these people, one thing is there. A word of advice should come from somebody who you hold in reverence. My saying this may not attract too many people, but supposing a son's mother tells him, who's into kind of into a rocking lifestyle, or supposing a wife tells her husband, or a husband tells his wife, and vice versa, and the kids, I think people would find that they're in a better place in their lives.
I think also it's very important to take out time to connect with yourself, because that's when you develop your connection with the divine.
And believe me, you can do that even sitting in the bathroom.
That's true.
You can do it in the bathroom, you can do it in the morning while brushing the teeth, you can stand in front of a shrine and do it, you can do it any time.
Having said that, it was a lovely chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was great to find you. You spoke to us.
I mean, this itself is a miracle.
Yeah, it itself is a miracle that you came into our life and you had come to Saudami's exhibition.
I remember we connected like 2 years ago, and she actually did share her spiritual journey with me.
Look, here we are. So things happen.
Yep, miracles do happen. Thank you so much.